Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are now live on a conversation with, and I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. And today we are joined by Nace DeSanders. She is a global independent filmmaker, and her resume is absolutely amazing. I was just so excited to talk to this young lady because after reading everything that she has going on, it's just an absolute pleasure of having her on the show. And as always, I am joined by the one and only, the indescribable and incomparable Okima Timur, my amazing co-host who just elevates my show. I know I always say that, but ladies and gentlemen, I say that for a reason because it is the absolute truth. So, Nace
Hey y'all.
DeSanders, Okima, welcome to a conversation with. We're doing our show a little early today because Miss DeSanders is in Madrid, Spain, which is
Yes,
so exciting. So, welcome Nace to a conversation with. How are things over there?
they're good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be on. Yeah, things are good in Spain. It is nice and warm. Spring has sprung. The sun is out, and I'm glad to not be in the U.S. Sorry to say.
Girl, don't be sorry. You right. You right.
That is a whole other kind of podcast that we could be here all day talking about. Normally when we get started, I like to ask my guests how they got in the film business. But before we do that, um, your friend Joy Asante reached out to us.
Yeah.
So people normally reach out to myself and to Okima to come on the show, but I'm just curious as to how you guys found us. I mean, I know we international, but how did you guys find us?
So I actually don't know.
You know what? That's a
Joyce,
good answer though. That just means that we're so far out there that people don't have to know how they found us. They
They just
found
found
us.
us.
yeah. So my producer Joy Ashanti, who's working on my current feature film project with me, she was doing some research. We kind of divided and conquered in terms of doing research for just really perfect platforms to be speaking on, the kind of platforms that we know are going to be reaching the kind of audience that we want to reach, right? And so somewhere through Joy Ashanti's research, whether she was already listening to you guys or was like found you kind of recently, she recommended reaching out and hopping on this live stream, this podcast. So here I am.
Okay. Well, obviously she had to have listened to us because
Yeah.
looking at your body of work, I don't think that she would send you somewhere where first of all you're not going to be appreciated and uplifted and made to feel safe, and also where you're going to go to a platform that we're not going to give kudos to the phenomenal work that you're doing. So kudos to Joy. So thank you, Joy. But let's get into it. So how did you get started in the business?
So it was a mixture of different things. I knew I wanted to do film and I just wasn't sure of how to go about it, right? Obviously, we all want to start with a paying gig. We all have bills. And I just wasn't seeing how that was going to be possible for me. So I was in New York at the time, and I was like, well, I'll just start volunteering at film festivals because they always need volunteers, and film people go to those, right? So that's what I started doing. I started volunteering with film festivals, and I started meeting people there. But I am the kind of person where I need things to happen immediately. I'm not patient. So I was like, I need to meet more people now. So I started volunteering by writing for some film publications and doing interviews for different film publications as well. So now I'm in one-on-one interviews with different directors and producers. I'm like, great, that's good. I need more. So now with those things on my resume, I was able to start working in film, starting small, working for an indie film streaming platform called Soleil that I still help out with today. And then from there, I was able to start getting different roles within the film industry. And that really gave me this really holistic view on the industry that I could use and people who I could talk to and get advice before I started making my own films. So then I made my first short film in 2020 and then made another one in 2021, another in 2022. And it's short filmmaking, right? You just got to dive in, you got to do it, you got to get your hands dirty, you got to figure out what all this is about. And I thought, having spoken to all these directors, I was really prepared. I wasn't, but that's okay because I learned from it. So I made a bunch of shorts, and now I'm on my way to jumping into my first feature, which I'm super stoked about.
That is awesome. So many people think like the industry is so different than when I started. Like I started back in like, I started as a kid as an actor, but like in the industry on a professional level was like 09. And all of this access and things that are there now were not things that were there when I started, right? Like we didn't have all these programs and initiatives and blah, blah, blah. So I love that you know, kind of expedited your experience and your journey by starting as a festival volunteer. Because I think a lot of people, especially now with the advent of social media and how everybody flosses and a lot of times lies and fronts about how like popping and lucrative things are, that's not necessarily the truth. Yeah. And so people don't want to work for free. And I can understand not wanting to be taken advantage of, but people don't realize that like festival passes run anywhere from $900 to $2,000 for the festival. As a volunteer, you have access to everything. Yes, you got to do some legwork, but like you're in all the panels. You're introduced to people because you're escorting people. Like you are on the inside, and that was so smart of you to be like, you know what? I'm not gonna pay $2,000 for this pass, but what I'm gonna do is let y'all bring me out, house me, and run me around so I can meet these folks and do what you're asking me to do.
Exactly.
Because if you just started making your shorts in 2020, you know what I mean? Like that's amazing. Most of us have like 10, 15 years of like trudging through the trenches to just get to a short that does something in a good festival that gives, you know, the outside independent world cachet to the filmmaker. So that was super smart. So I hope y'all listening out there. Y'all listening that it's okay to work for free if you know that you have, but do it strategically. Like Nace, don't just be out here giving yourself, don't just be out here giving away the church's money, but like have a strategy like this smart young lady, and you can expedite your things because she's not just out here making films. Yes, she's about to tell us about working on her first feature. Yes, but she's made a stretch of short films that have made a lot of noise in both the standard and the experiential and genre space. So can you talk to us a little bit about what led you to experiential and genre? Because a lot of people come out and like everybody wants to make, you know, a romantic comedy or like this like ergonomic drama. And you were like, no, baby, I'm gonna put this white man in the middle of these mannequins and we're gonna do some stuff. Like,
yo, I was sitting there like I had to watch that 2 times.
We're gonna tell some stories a different way.
Yeah, it was a number of things coming together. I think that's just kind of naturally where I gravitate. I want things to be weird. I want things to capture attention. So that's also the kind of stuff that I like to watch. I love it when I watch a film. Like I have no idea what's happening, but I'm here for it. I want to figure it out. I want to be a detective. So I really like that. So I wanted to make that. But it's also admittedly a bit of resource filmmaking, right? So because everyone goes for the drama first, for that drama to look cinematic, you gotta like, you kind of have to spend some money. You can't like with this blank white wall here, I cannot shoot a drama here. That is so ugly and boring. So there needs to be some extra something to make a drama work. Also, you have to be a really good writer. And now I think I'm a pretty good writer, but when I was first making shorts, for sure, no. And it just takes time to flex those muscles and to build that. So I think in the beginning, finding a way by just using some other skills. So for me, that's production design. I love production design. I thought, okay, well, I can really enhance a story with creative production design. So how do I start with that? And so I was like, okay. And again, I was like, production design, the idea is fire off immediately. I'm going to get mannequins. I'm going to do this. I was in New York. People are always selling like mannequins from like, you know, closing down stores and stuff like that for cheap.
Or throwing them outside for you to just take.
They're throwing them outside. I was driving around New York, picking up all these different mannequins. My car looked crazy.
That's the movie.
Yeah, right? So starting from there, I'm like, I know, what can I definitely do? And my first short cost, you know, a couple bucks and a sandwich because I did not have it like that. What can I do with what I have to build something that looks amazing and that looks filmic and that really hits and is really able to tell the story without a boring dinner scene of like, how could you do this? Oh, well, women in society, like that's boring. And we've all seen it a million times. I screened for a bunch of different film festivals as well now. So, and I hadn't at that point, but now I have. So I've seen, I don't know how many short films at this point, thousands. And I know all the tropes. I know the stuff that we see a gazillion times. And those two people at the dinner table, don't do it. Every film festival screener has seen it 1,000 times, and we are all tired of it. So it can't be that you got to go crazy. You got to do something that no one's seen before. And experimental is just the place to do it.
Yeah. And Infatuation, that was a really interesting film. And then The Wounded and The Watcher, that was striking. And what really got me was the ending. When you're watching people watching basically a display, or like they were at a zoo. And that really struck me, because it kind of speaks to what's going on with society today, that people can watch people suffering, and it's basically a carnival show for them. No one's extending. Well, I can't say no one. There are so many people that are not extending a helping hand when you see someone in distress.
Yeah.
And you'll just step over them, and I've seen this. You will actually, as opposed to helping them, take out your phone and start filming. And I'm sitting here saying, okay, someone's in trouble, someone is in distress. As opposed to taking the phone out to call the authorities, you're taking it out to put something on World Star Hip Hop.
Be the first one.
Yeah, so that's crazy. So where did you come up with the concept for The Wounded and The Watcher? Where did that come from?
That's a good question. I don't have a super interesting answer. It just comes, and I'm like, I'll do something with that, which doesn't sound interesting, but
no, it does. Don't dilute that, because I think that a lot of times we forget that our creativity, whatever you admonish, whether it's the creator, the universe, God, whatever it is, if you're truly called to create, you never get just one good idea. And they don't necessarily come from, and everything doesn't come from some experience. Sometimes the spirit just goes, bloop, that's yours, what you gonna do with it? So it's not a disinteresting answer to say, I don't know. The interesting part about it is, well, that just means you were supposed to tell that story because it was given to you.
Thank you. I love that. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things firing off just kind of at all times. And that just happened to be the idea that came with the film attached to it in my brain. Like, this is the film. I'm like, all right, well, here we go. So
I got one of those in the shower the other day and literally ran out the shower, no towel, no nothing, dripping water through the house because I had to put it on a voice note so I didn't forget it.
I do the same thing.
So I get you.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about you saying, well, you really don't know, as Okima said, sometimes something will drop in your lap. You'll have that thing, or like you said in an interview I saw, you'll walk around with something in your head for 2 years and then decide to put it out there. But the thing with when you get that flash and then you turn it into something, watching that film made me think that someone may see that and say, hey, you know what? I was the person standing there holding that phone. I'm never going to be that person again. So sometimes when we make art, we don't even know what we're making it for. And I'm gonna tell you guys a really quick story. The girl that played Gina on Martin, Tisha Campbell was on an interview, and she said she was standing in line to get a cup of coffee, and there was a gentleman standing in front of her. I'm sorry, standing behind her. So he taps her on the shoulder and he says, I'm going to get that for you. And she says, no. And he says, no, I want to pay for it. And he said, let me tell you why. He said, I just got out of prison. And he said, when Martin would come on, time for us would stop. So he said, watching the Martin show got us through some really difficult times. And he said, my wife's standing over there and we just wanted to thank you. He said, because you really helped me. So she said, by this time she's bawling, she's crying. She's like, oh my gosh. And she said, the thing about art is when we're making it, we just think we're making art. but we're not understanding that the thing that we make could actually help someone. So I say all of that to say, you know, The Wounded and The Watcher and Infatuation, you know, those are films that you say, oh, I really don't know where that came from. But again, that was more than likely put on you. So it could help someone else. You may never know who it helps, but it could actually help someone else, you know, on their journey to becoming a better person. So I'm going to jump back off my soapbox because I have another question. And this came to me when I was watching you. Oh gosh, I can't remember the young lady's name, but she has an amazing podcast. But you talked a lot about being in a space that Black women don't normally occupy, horror, and more importantly, experimental horror. So there's normal horror, and then there's what you do. Can you explain the difference to people and why you gravitate more towards that particular niche of horror film?
Yeah, sure. So, right, I guess regular horror is a hard one because I wouldn't say there is anything such as regular horror, right? Horror is such a expansive genre. It is like more so than any other genre. It's just so huge and encompasses so much stuff. And I think that then is the reason why experimental horror I find is like my beautiful little perfect space, because it just, I don't know, it just fits so perfectly. Whereas to say like experimental comedy or experimental drama, experimental anything else, that's something very, very, very specific where you're like, okay, there's only like a few of those. Horror intrinsically lends itself to experimentalism, right? You have a movie with made up monsters and people and worlds. So it just makes sense. I think fantasy as well could be like a shoot off of that. And so to define experimental horror, that's another hard one. I'm sorry, I'm not answering these questions.
No, you are. You are answering them because, again, like you said, it's not definitive, right? Like I just finished doing a campy horror short, half animation, half live action. Ciao. It took us 1.5 years animation, but like also, like you said, there's so much, we experimented with so many different things to figure this thing out. So you are answering the question. Like you said initially resource filmmaking. Well, ain't nothing like, you know, a makeup monster can be anything that's in your closet if you put it on the right person, place, or thing.
Exactly.
Right. And like you tend to do in your pieces, what would be a mundane item to anyone else is then the catalyst for a lot of your stories. And it really, as the watcher, as the audience, I'm like, anything can be good or bad. Right? Depending on how you see it or utilize it or let it utilize you. So I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you made some really interesting stuff. The film,
The Fingers freaked me out.
You know what? See, this is why she's my co-host, because we are on the same page. Because I'm sitting there watching your director's reel,
The Fingers,
and everything's going well. They're eating cake, and then I'm like, yo, so she put her hand on it, and then dude is. I was like, yo, did he just? And then he gonna stand up and start dancing.
Right, because I saw the little, you know, I saw the little picture, and I was like, are they family? Are they like a throuple? Like, what are we doing? And I mean, it's 2025, child. They could have been anything.
Yeah, I mean.
But then once you started losing fingers, I was like, ma'am, what?
Yep. So that's from Hello Sickness, which is my latest short. It's in its film festival run right now. And I'm thinking I'll do a nice short festival run for this and then release it out on YouTube so people can enjoy it and experience it. So probably before the end of the year, it'll be up on YouTube and I'll post about it so everyone knows that they can go and watch it. I shot that one in South Africa when I was living there. Yeah, so I really got to take advantage of how beautiful the landscape just is without me having to even do anything. Resource, right? So It was a lot of fun to shoot, and it was really great to experience shooting not in the United States with, totally different crew culture. Yeah, just a lot of fun.
Okay. So
it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
That was Cape Town, right?
Yeah, we shot in Betty's Bay, which is near Cape Town. It's in the Western Cape. Yeah.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Yeah. So talk about when you were trying to get the crew for that, because that's a very interesting story when you were getting the crew together for that particular film. So can you talk about that?
So for context, because when people hear South Africa, right? So Cape Town is still very white and still very segregated. And I knew I wanted a crew of all or mostly women of color, specifically Black women if possible. And I was told to not do that. I was told that's impossible. You need to give up immediately. And I was told this by a woman of color. I'm not going to say names, but she was like, girl, you don't do that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try. Like, let me try and fail, and then I'll hire some white dudes. But, like, let me try at least, So I tried, and I succeeded. The crew was almost entirely women of color, and it was such a vibe. It was so much fun. Same jokes. Like, everyone got it. And it was just so much fun to collaborate with one another. I will admit she was right on some fronts that it was kind of hard. So I did end up having to train a couple members of the crew on how to do like their specific positions. But I thought that was really rewarding and fun, and it turned out great, So just taking a moment to say like, hey, okay, before production starts, we're going to meet. I'm going to show you how to do scripting, how to do continuity, how to do this part. Our sound person had to train up their assistant sound, and just spend an extra day to teach them how to do what they got to do, and they can help you. And it came together beautifully. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to that person. And I just went, no, I'm going to have my woman of color crew.
So how does it feel to have this career that has taken off, gotten you to a place where you're doing what you want to do, where you want to do it in the world, but you're also lending yourself to other creatives, be it as a mentor, a consultant, etc., and that your journey has been so untraditional?
Yeah, it has been really weird, hasn't it? Everything just kind of comes together the way it's supposed to. I love doing filmmaker consulting. I think a big part of that comes from all the different film festivals that I've gotten to work for and with, that it just naturally lends itself to, okay, well, maybe I should be helping on the filmmaker side. Recently, I've gotten to help a number of filmmakers create their first pitch decks for their projects, and that was unbelievably rewarding because I got to then see them present those pitches that we practiced together at a showcase event last week. And that was just so exciting. So I was like, oh my God, yes, I did it. I helped them. So like a little yay me moment. So I love filmmaker consulting. Right now I'm in development for my first feature film. So I won't say I've made it yet, but it's right over the horizon. We're in great conversations now with potential funders. I have a great producing team behind me. So it's coming together. I will say, I know this is the part where I'm supposed to say I'm lucky, but I don't believe in luck, and I'm not lucky. Everything has been work. It's been hard work.
For that.
I'm the queen of cold outreach. I be calling people. I be emailing people. I will find your email and I will email you. So, so it's come together really nicely, and it's really satisfying to see just the fruits of labor come together,
Okay. So I'm go ahead, Okima.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about, I've written down so many questions.
He always has a gajillion questions.
I always got
four.
I have a lot of questions. But let's talk about Dance of the Demons.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Because that is a very interesting concept, and I'm definitely looking forward to see that. So how did that one pop into your brain?
Yeah. So for context, for those who might not know, endometriosis is a chronic condition that I have, and there's a lot of symptoms, but the main one that's important to understand the story premise is that it makes your period extremely painful. So there's also some like infertility issues with it, but women who have endometriosis and later on were able to give birth to children have said that the pain is about the same. So imagine being a teenager going through the pain of labor every single month. It's not great. It messes you up a bit. And so I was just feeling really frustrated, especially towards the end of high school, thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I was and am super ambitious. I knew I had all this stuff I wanted to do with my life, but I didn't know how I could possibly do it, because what job lets you take a week off of work every single month, right? And remote work was not a thing at that point, right? This is, you don't need to know when it was, but it's before 2020, right? So I was super scared, super just frustrated, and didn't know what direction my life could possibly go in. And so the main character of Dance of the Demon is essentially in the position I was scared I would be in, where the disease is not allowing her to grow up. She isn't able to get a real job. She doesn't really have friends because her life is revolving around her period and just knowing where she can be and when. She doesn't have a partner. And these are things that she wants in her life, and she's just completely stuck. And then she gets the quote unquote opportunity to make a deal with the devil. The demon appears and says he consumes pain. And she enters in this pact, and it's looking good. She's pain-free for the first time in her life. She's able to get a real job, make some real money, make her rent. She's got friends. She gets a partner for the first time. And we're watching this, we're like, okay, so perfect. But this demon subsists on her like a parasite, and he starts requiring more and more and more from her. And so we start to wonder as the audience, is she going to find a way to coexist with this demon, or will it ultimately consume her? The reason it's called Dance of the Demon is because the physical representations of this demon consuming her pain are shown to us through dance sequences. So very Beauty and the Beast, we've got this giant scary monster dancing with this young woman throughout the film.
Wow. And that's coming out in 2026, or are you guys in pre-production now? What's going on with that?
We're in development right now. We are going to be shooting early 2026. So then we can project to be in film festivals 2027, probably streaming release 2028. So y'all got to wait a little bit for it, but it's coming.
Okay.
So with something like that, one, congratulations. The concept is great. As a woman who PCOS and endometriosis and all these things run in my family, unfortunately, I do not suffer from them, but I do suffer from infertility. And so the idea, what a lot of filmmakers don't think about when they're thinking about development and sponsorship and support, is the social impact part. Yeah. Are you guys looking for or gathering social impact partners for this film as well? Because the funny thing about it is a lot of them don't get to engage in more of the exciting, edgy place in film, because not a lot of film that is exciting and edgy and genre lives in social impact, like, lives a social impact opportunity life as well. So can you talk a little bit about any of the social impact ideas or running that you guys are doing? Because I think that our listeners need to also remember that there's opportunity everywhere.
Yeah. So we are currently partnered with about 50 different nonprofit organizations and influencers that specify in endometriosis or anything like related to this. The film deals with a number of issues regarding Black women's health and the disbelief that we face within the medical system. So a number of organizations that focus on that as well. And yeah, it's part of my pitch to them, is that because a lot of nonprofits are more used to engaging with documentaries. And I always come to them, I say, listen, not knocking docs. They're fantastic. But if I have a documentary titled, endometriosis or Black women in health or disbelief of Black women in the American healthcare system, who's watching that documentary? It is, for the most part, not going to be the asshole that's like, Black people don't experience pain, or the asshole that's teaching his medical students, you don't need to prescribe the Black women, it's fine. They don't experience. It's not that person. That person,
or like the asshole who's our health services secretary.
They're not watching the doc. But you show them a trailer with a scary monster, they might sit down for that. They'll more than likely sit down for that. And then once they're sitting down, they're watching it, now they're being delivered that message, not heavy-handed, but in a way that's still enjoyable. But then they go, they watch the gynecologist scene where the gynecologist is just like writing her off, and they go, I have said that to people before. Hopefully, I have said that to people before, and now I'm realizing, and I feel kind of shitty. Good thing I watched this, right? Whereas that doc, there's no way they're picking that up. And again, not to knock documentaries, they're important, they are wonderful. But this film is meant to serve a different purpose and is meant to reach that audience that wouldn't know about this or care to learn about it otherwise. I mean, we have so many people working in government who are legislating on women's bodies that think you can suck in a period, you know? They're not watching a period doc.
If you don't have ovaries, you shouldn't be able to tell somebody with ovaries what to do with them. But that's just my point. Because we're not walking around telling them what to do with their gonads because we don't have them.
Right.
You don't want to hear what
No, that's, I mean, growing up, I remember that I had elders that would always say, and a pastor that would always say, you got to catch a fish to clean it. And so that's kind of the way that you're working. You're making these things that are saying all these big, important things, but you're doing it in a way where everybody is engaged, not realizing that there is medicine in the peanut butter.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah. And you know what? There's, as they say, as the saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Yeah. So sometimes, we're in a creative business. So you have to get creative in order to put something out there. And one of the best examples of that, if people have already seen it, is the film that's out right now that's doing so amazingly well at the box office, which is Sinners. Yeah. It's supposed to be a vampire movie. But go online and see what people are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Some don't read everything, because baby.
No. I'm talking about us as Black people.
No, because I'm talking about us too. We the first ones that's gonna look at our work and decide that it's got to be dissected.
But you know what? This is
healthy way.
No,
but I know what you mean.
But this is amazing because they're talking about it in a good way, and the things that. The scene, if you've seen it with the music, when they're in the barn, and the scene with Delroy Lindo in the car.
Well, he needs all the awards.
Oh my gosh. If you haven't seen it, when you see, well, I'm not going to give it away, but it does something to you.
But to bring it back to her work,
right?
This is exactly what you're doing.
Right.
And seeing it happen in a $90 million film like Sinners means you're doing the right things because the big boys are doing it too.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Congratulations. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it. And I know there's so many women that suffer from various, menstrual and reproductive afflictions that just don't get believed or don't, there's always this ugly, stupid stigma that we're just trying to over medicate or get access to medication. And it's like, sir, I would rather have a pineapple than a pill, but can you make this stop hurting?
Yeah. And who did we just interview? Oh my gosh, the young lady that
she was just talking about the same thing.
She made a film. So when I saw the the synopsis for your film, I can't remember her name right now, but she has endometriosis as well, and she did a film. It is really escaping me right now. I'm going to have to look it up. It's so common. Yeah, it's amazing that the more you talk about a thing, the more you see that it's out there more. It's more prevalent than you would actually think. But I have a question regarding Spain.
Yeah.
You're from New York.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Spain?
I am from New York, but I'm not usually there. So before I was living in Spain, I was living in South Africa. And then before South Africa, I went back to New York for a short period of time, less than a year, because of COVID. And then before that, I was in Japan for 5 years. And then before that, I was in high school. So then I was in New York. So the hopping around is a thing. I keep it pushing. And I'm thinking I want to do Germany next, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I just like to hop around. There's so much world to see. And something I've discovered, because it sounds very expensive to keep moving to different countries, but something I've discovered, if you don't have like children or like real furniture, I don't have any real furniture, right? If you don't have those things, moving countries costs about the same as moving cities. You're just packing up your 2-3 suitcases and getting a flight, right? And so the places that I'm moving to are all way cheaper than the US. So it just ends up working really nicely. And I'm like, well, I work remote. They're cool with me hopping around. So I need to take advantage of this now before I have things that slow me down, like furniture and cars and kids or whatever, right? So let me do it now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that, the nomadic lifestyle is such a, it's much more normal now among, and not just childless adults, like families.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend who during COVID set up something called the Black Freedom Colony, and she moved 35 families to Mexico for the first year of COVID, full families. And then after that, she met her husband, she met who would become her husband, and then was managing a palace in the sub-Sahara in Morocco. And now they have an entire beautiful riad and compound for healing, for specifically, it's for everyone to enjoy, but she created it specifically for the purpose of Black Americans healing and restoring themselves in the middle of the Sahara.
Wow.
Called Mwasi Global Community. And so like the nomadic life is huge now. And so I love that you're just like, I just go where I feel like it. And like, and the thing about it is that energy also attracts people that also, so like, I'm quite sure that whenever you do partner, it's going to be somebody that's just that's like that too. Because the last thing you're going to want is a partner that's like, no, we're staying here forever.
Oh yeah, no, that can't happen.
So you talked about something that was really interesting, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the film that you guys are about to do. People supporting the work. Because you talked about the best way to do that is to actually go to the theater to see the film. Voting with your money.
Yeah.
So can we talk about us as Black people, but more importantly, us as Black creatives voting with our money? If we're talking about, well, they're not green lighting these things, but then it's tied to, well, because y'all ain't spending the money. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way the industry works is somebody has to give you money to make the film, and that might be a whole separate conversation. But they say they want to make their money back. They say they want a sure investment, and like a whole separate conversation is like, okay, well, if you wanted like a surefire thing, you wouldn't be investing in film, but whatever. Okay, we're here. They're investing in film. They want something that at least feels safe. And if they look at the hard numbers, not bringing in any personal prejudice into it, they look at hard numbers and they see that people are more likely to buy the tickets of Christopher Nolan than little Nace DeSanders, then that film funder is going to go, sorry, Nace, Christopher Nolan's making a thing, and I want to make my money back when this ends. So good luck, girl. I'm going to go help out Christopher Nolan. It just makes, from their perspective, it really just makes sense, right? So we as the audience members love to say, oh my God, it's so awful. Why don't they fund these Black women? Why don't they fund these people? It's because when they do, if people don't go see it, that then signals as like a nice loud beacon to all other funders. Hey, this one funder tried it and it did not work. Y'all don't do it either. Okay, stick with the white men. That's where you make your money back. And it sucks, but if you see it from their perspective, it makes sense. Like, oh, I'm just here to make money. And statistically speaking, you don't make money. So I got to go. Right. So when we do see a film, an indie film, because it's going to start out indie, right? And then it gets bigger to Ryan Coogler level. When you see an indie film that is directed by someone of a demographic that you typically don't see directing and you want to support. So whether that be a Black woman or a Muslim woman or like just whatever it is, Asian woman, doesn't matter, right? When you see that, you gotta watch it. And I'm sorry, you cannot torrent it. You gotta pay for it. Because when you torrent it, that vote doesn't count anymore. So you gotta, hop, whether it's on streaming. And like, honestly, go on streaming and just like play it for your, like watch it, enjoy it. And then like when you go to work, play it for your dogs when they go out so that we get those extra, like those extra numbers. But you gotta stream it. You gotta rent it. You gotta go out and see it in theaters so that the funders, when they see, again, not talking about like personal feelings or anything, when they see those hard numbers and they go, oh, the last 5 films that came out directed by women of color all went gangbusters, then all the funders, all the people who have that money are going to go, okay, let's look for more women of color to fund because that makes money, right? So I think on one hand, like it feels like, oh, okay, but they should do it anyway. I don't know. That's just not how it works. So we got to work with how it works for now, at least, right? So watch it. Watch
at the end of the day, it's a business, and if this is a business, whoever's in business writing a check is going to want a return on their investment. Now, it's a risky investment, but as you said, they're going to go with the surest thing in a risky environment.
Exactly.
So if there's Floyd's film, and then there's Ryan Coogler's film, they're going with Ryan Coogler's film because Ryan Coogler has a track record.
Right.
So
But I think we also have to look at the idea that we are such an innately or society, but we can be and existing people. Mm-hmm. Like I can go see Ryan Coogler's film, but I can also go see Nace's film.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think that that's part of feeding into the whole vote with your money is us understanding that we don't have to know the person. We don't have to have heard of them. We don't have to have seen their work before to be able to say, I'm going to support that. Cause like everybody's going to see Sinners. Like we know that it's out and it's Ryan and it's Michael and all the things, you know what I'm saying? But we also, that's why it's getting lay people into the festival culture is important. Mm-hmm. Because if we get lay people into more festival culture, they will become more accustomed to seeing things that they know nothing about with the idea that they can begin to enjoy them.
Yeah.
And so voting with your money is also starting a festival or having screenings of festival films in your environment for your organizations or your friends or or your job or whatever it is, but introducing the idea that you don't have to know the filmmaker to support the film so that people can begin to understand what that means.
Absolutely. I would also say our marketing budgets are way, way lower. So if it's a thing of where you're like, okay, well, I don't have the cash money to go out to theaters right now. Okay, post about it. Post it on your story. Oh my gosh,
that's the free part.
Theaters, right? Help us out with the marketing aspect. Word of mouth is so important.
So that's why Floyd exists. I just got here as the co-host this year, but what Floyd's been doing with this podcast for the last 3 years, the last several years, and I mean his career in general, is giving a voice to both the known and up and comer so that people come here with the intention of, I'm going to learn about something, if not someone new that I can support, understand, see, etc. Now he has this new independent series he's doing, Tubi Thursdays, where he dissects and gives reviews on Tubi videos. And again, Tubi is, through the pandemic, Tubi it will always innately be known as that place. But there's some good film up there now. And because Fox be foxing, a lot of the stuff that we laughed about and made memes about in the pandemic is not even on the platform anymore. You can't just throw things on Tubi anymore. You have to go through someone with a slate deal now, or you have to know an executive now. So they're leveling up what they put out there. But again, it's having that voice that says, it's like what you do at festivals, how you consult and how you word of mouth other people, other filmmakers' work and names. All of those things are so important because we don't have the filmmaking budgets, but I'm sure that in your consultations, you also tell your filmmakers budget for marketing, because everybody wants to do a budget and somehow it ends at wrap. And I'm like, but there's post. And then there's also marketing and promotion and festivals, because them ain't free, right? And so, you guys are already aligning yourselves with who you need for your film for pre-production, post, marketing and promotion. You know, if you're working with 50 nonprofits, you now have 50 organizations with at least, I'm sure several hundred, if not thousands of people that now will know your name and know your work and look for it and go support it. So that now the next person coming up trying to do something like that has a comp.
Yeah.
I tell people, like, as an independent filmmaker, be the comp you're looking for. Right? Be the comp you're looking for. You do what you need to do so the next person coming up is like, oh, my comp is X.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of that, speaking of independent platforms, you mentioned a platform earlier.
Yeah.
And I heard it on your other interview. I actually looked it up online and I couldn't find it. You called it Silly Space. So can you tell us about that platform? Did I get that right?
No, Soleil space.
Soleil. Oh, I'm looking up Silly Space.
Soleil meaning sun.
That's why.
Oh, okay. So okay, I didn't hear that right on the other interview. So it's
No
Soleil
worries.
Space. So can you spell that?
Yes, I can. SOLEIL space and then space. And that was
Okay. So can you tell us about that platform?
Yeah, so it's a wonderful independent streaming platform and it's free. So sign up, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And it exclusively features short films by filmmakers from the Global South and Global South diasporas. So these are filmmakers, and I have the pleasure of getting to meet and speak with all of them, which I love. But a lot of these filmmakers are from countries that don't have film industries. So a lot of them make short films kind of knowing this is it. I've made my short film. This has been fun. I hope someone notices me, but I have to now go do something else because my country does not have, there's no upward. This is it. We're done. We've had fun. Now it's time to go to work, right? So to reach out to these filmmakers and be like, hey, that it's not done. You're not done yet. Hold on. Let's get your film on the platform. Let's get you paid for this work that you've put in, this hard work you've put in. And let's amplify this short film to the entire world. It's a platform that doesn't geo-block. Everyone everywhere can see it. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a streaming platform that's really trying to help these filmmakers just get seen and get noticed. And we've got filmmakers on just various stages in their careers. Some are very much, they're out there, they're doing it. They don't need us, but it's just wonderfully fulfilling work. All the filmmakers are so cool and so just wonderful to get to know and to learn from and to support. And yeah, I just really love it. It's fantastic.
Wow.
I love that. And that's the other thing, people don't know, you can put your thing on whatever platform, but if they're geotagging, which will then get blocked, I will only be able to watch it if I'm on a VPN. Your average person doesn't have a VPN.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell the lay people what a VPN is, please? Because somebody will probably be like, what is she talking about?
My bad. So because I travel a lot for work and we shoot in all these weird places sometimes, including weird domestic places, the VPN, and I'm Caribbean, so I want to be able to watch what my folks at home are watching. The VPN is, I forget what the acronym stands for, but basically it allows you to cloak your location so that when I'm in Guyana, I can still watch Hulu, because I can't watch Hulu in Guyana because they don't have it in Guyana. But if I'm on my VPN and I use an IP address, meaning the address of your computer, not that you don't know that for those watching, if I use an IP address for Chicago, then I can watch Hulu in the middle of Georgetown, Guyana, because my computer thinks I'm in Chicago.
Y'all got that? Okay.
But a VPN is also good for encrypting and it's like Noor. It's remember back in the day, McAfee?
Mm-hmm.
It's great for security, but it takes it a step further by allowing you to cloak your address and be able to access whatever, wherever, whenever.
Oh, okay. So Nace, you've been doing this for quite some time. What advice would you give filmmakers if they decided that this is the business that I want to get into? But more importantly, if a young woman of color decides that she wants to be a horror filmmaker, because listening to a couple of interviews you did, you ran into this is not a Black woman's space. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give a young Black girl or lady, or man for that matter, who decided that horror is the genre that I want to dive into, what advice would you give them on how to start?
Well, before I answer that question, I will say I just led a panel titled Black Women in Horror, a perspective on the present and future at South by Southwest this year.
I was getting to that. But let's tie it all up.
So if you wanna know more, you can check it out. We're gonna post it on YouTube like this or next week. I've been, procrastinating on it. But so we've got some tidbits in there. And so you could hear like questions like that answered, not just by me, but also by my amazing panel guests. One thing I would say, and this would be my advice to any filmmaker wanting to do absolutely anything, anywhere: network. You have to network. You absolutely have to network. And one thing that's like, I guess, the good and the bad, the double-edged sword of there not being a huge amount of Black women in genre is that we all know each other. So I recently met this amazing woman in genre, and I wanted to introduce her to a peer of mine, another Black woman in genre. I introduced them via email, and they're both like, wait, we've encountered each other before. And that happens every time. So one great thing is, if that's what you want to do, you just got to find like one of us, and we know all the others. So it's pretty, you're in. Once you're in, you're in. So that's one great thing, right? That, like, it's sad there's not a lot, but good that, like, we're close, we're tight knit, we know each other, we support each other. It is not a catty space in the least. I have never in this space experienced any kind of cattiness, any kind of, like crabs in a bucket type of mentality. None of that. It is always sharing. It is always boosting each other. It is always, how can we help each other? And so that's one thing that's amazing. But then back to the point about networking. I mean, it's 2025. This is a Nepo baby industry. And if you're not a Nepo baby, you need to become a Nepo baby. All right. And how do you do that? By networking. You're going to network yourself into, into having a famous aunt, uncle, brother, sister, So that's just the name of the game. Knowing people, this is not a meritocracy. You need to know people. And of course, like, you need to have the talent. If you meet everybody and you suck, you'll just suck and know everybody. So you gotta be good too. But but if you're also just amazing, but you don't have the resources to make anything, and you don't know anyone to make anything, you're also stuck. So you need both. And network is the name of the game. And again, if you can't afford these crazy expensive festival tickets, you need to volunteer so you could be in these rooms with these people that you want to network with. And also the fellow volunteers that are at the festivals, they're likely right at the same level as you and are smart enough to be like, I need to do something as well. So they're going to be good people to network with as well. And I think one last thing when it comes to networking, this is an industry with people that love to talk. People love talking. So it's really important early on to identify who is actually doing stuff and who is just like yapping for a long time and they've actually never done anything, and they're just here because they want to be known to be here. And it's a weird thing. So yeah, that's my advice.
Okay.
What would you tell someone that is discouraged because they've been trying to do this and they feel like they've not cracked the nut?
I would say you're doing something wrong. And I know that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear that everybody else sucks and we're so sorry. And I am sorry because it's frustrating, but you're doing something wrong. Because it's 2025, there's so much stuff online. There's so many resources online. There's so many groups online. There's so many free things to apply for. There's fellowships, and it takes time. It's not going to happen immediately. I mean, it might happen immediately, but it's probably not going to happen immediately. But there's something that's not connecting, and somebody's got to be able to tell you. So that might be what it is, that you don't have friends around you who are able to tell you, hey, when you network, you're super off-putting, or hey, you're not spell checking this stuff before you send these grant applications, and that's why you're not getting anything. I just caught 17 typos, right? So you need to have friends around you that can tell you what you're doing wrong. And if they can't, they're probably all doing the same thing wrong. But hopefully you've got someone in your corner that's doing stuff right, that can look you up and down and go, hey girl, or hey dude, hey non-binary peeps, this is what's not going right for you, and I love you, and I'm telling you because I want you to be able to fix it and excel.
Wow. You know what? You said something just now that really jumped out at me. You said you may have to tell them that they're doing something wrong. And I want to turn it slightly and say you may have to tell them that they're not doing the right thing within this business.
Yeah.
Because you may think that you're a phenomenal filmmaker, but you ain't, but you're a hell of a producer. Mm. You may be just not in the right space. You know, I started out as an actor. I'm not there anymore. So sometimes I think when people get stuck, they're stuck because they're not willing to pivot, and they're not flexible enough where they say, okay, well, maybe this particular thing within this industry is not for me. But you may have a talent, a skill set where you would thrive doing something else. So I think that's phenomenal, because you may have to tell someone, hey, let's sit down and let's do an audit on what you're doing and where you're at. And maybe if we line everything, if we outline everything, let's look at your strengths and your weaknesses. If you notice, when you try to do this, it always fails and it crashes and burns. But check this out. When you do this, oh, you the shit. So how about let that go? You learn from that and take what you've learned from that, because it's always failing forward, in my opinion. Yeah. You take that and you take it over here and thrive. And I think, and that's the beauty of having good friends and a great circle that will be able to tell you that. I'm telling you this in love. Dog, you suck at making films. But guess what? You're great at putting together sets. Yeah. You could be a phenomenal productions designer. You're phenomenal at that. So have you ever considered maybe doing that and see what happens? But that's an absolutely amazing point. So what's next? Please.
I think people also have to recognize that when you start out as an independent filmmaker, you're all the things, right? Like you have to be, because you don't have it to outsource a lot of stuff. And when people they plateau because they try to still remain being all the things. Yeah. So having friends that are like, listen, we all, no matter what you think about Tyler Perry's work, we know that he puts hundreds of thousands of people to employment. But we would not know Tyler Perry in the way we know him, especially in the Medea space and Medea time, were it not for Roger Bob and Tim Story, right? And so everybody needs their Roger Bob and their Tim Story, even if they're doing their Tyler thing. So it's written, directed, and produced and acted. But trust and believe, when Tyler is in that dress, Roger and Tim were behind the monitor to make sure that things were happening and blah, blah, blah. So like, I think sometimes the other thing is having a friend to tell you like, yo, I got you. You can just go do this thing that you're really good at and not have to do this other thing because you're used to doing this other thing every time too. Yeah. So, so audience, y'all, this is you. That means you. Assess your tribe. Are they telling you the truth? Are they telling you what you want to hear or what you need to hear? Are you telling yourself the truth? Because baby Nace has figured it out. So either figure it out too, or call her and pay her to help you figure it out.
Yeah, because we ain't doing free consultations. We don't do that. But Nace, someone had a question.
That's not free.
That's right. You got a Venmo
or whatever they spend over there.
Venmo or Cash App. But someone asked a question, and maybe you guys can answer it. Dan the Man asked the question: what about having your screenplays sold without an agent? Would the best route be online submissions like the Blacklist, or are there other avenues in person wise? So if either one of you want to take that question, and I'm going to let me read it again.
And I'll pull up the rear.
Okay, let me read it again so you guys can. He said, what about having your screenplay sold without an agent? Would the best route be online submissions like the Blacklist, or are there other avenues in person wise?
So I gotta say, hey to my friends at the Blacklist, because I don't know if they watch it. Hey, y'all. My big thing with the blacklist originally was that it at first can seem prohibitively expensive because you have to pay to submit, and then you also have to pay to have your film like reviewed on the blacklist before you can submit. But if you email the blacklist, they will give you a waiver. So do that. I don't believe in using competitions to get repped or to sell a script, because you can count on one hand the amount of times that's happened amongst the sea of competition. So I'm not big on using competitions for that. What competitions are great for is getting the pulse of your script. Is it any good? When you submit it, are you getting good feedback? Are you placing? Or is it just a rejection every time? And if it's a rejection every time, that doesn't even necessarily mean that your script is bad, right? It still could be good, but it's still good to see, okay, like how are people reacting to things? So I think competitions are good for that. So I have a number of friends who have agents. No one's ever seen good things about having an agent, because they take a good percentage and you're still finding yourself most of the opportunities. What it seems that like having an agent is good for is saying you have an agent, because there are opportunities that your agent's not going to find, you still have to find. But then once you have found the opportunity, they don't want to hear from you unless you have the agent. So you're still doing it all. You just have to say that you have an agent, right? So that doesn't answer your question. Okay, how do I sell my script? You got to network. You have to network. You cannot cold send your script to anybody ever. Let me say that to everyone listening. Do not send your script to people unsolicited ever. If you do that, the next time you try to email people, they will ignore you. You're going to blacklist.
They'll block you.
They will don't send that out. You need to be invited to send it. And to be invited to send it, you kind of have to know people already. So that's kind of hard. So how do I network so that I have people to send this script to? The festivals is a good route. You're like, I can't go to festivals, not say. And I did say earlier, I do cold outreach. So how do I do cold outreach? You can do that cold outreach. Do not attach your script. In that cold outreach, you're saying, hey, Nace, I think, you would love this script because you've done A, B, and C, and I've seen all those projects, and I really liked all those projects. Do not email someone that you've never seen their projects. They're going to sniff it out, and it's going to be weird. I've seen these projects. I think it's a great fit. I think you're the kind of person that would love this. Here's the log line. Give a nice log line. Can I send this to you? Would you be okay with that? You're going to get, I'm going to say 5% open rate, right? So you got to send 100 emails. But the 5 that open it, hey, they might say yes, they might say no. But I think even getting a no is really I feel good when I get a no. I'm like, all right, well, they responded.
They
right?
responded.
And a no, if they really don't want anything to do with you, they're going to not respond. If they give you a no, you need to follow up with a second ask. They say, no, I'm not going to read your script. Follow up with, okay, no problem. Would it be okay if I send you a deck? Would it be okay if I follow up in a couple, if they say if they're too busy, can I follow back up in a couple months? Can I, if they give you enough, ask for something else, right? But you have to have someone that has already saying, yes, send me your scripts. Again, I do think festivals are just the quickest, easiest place to do that. But second best would probably be some cold outreach, some filmmaking groups that you can join online, or people meet up weekly to write together, to do whatever together. That's a good spot. Yeah, that's my advice.
Y'all, she said a couple of really key things. One, you do not send your script out to anyone unsolicited. Just don't do it. 2, she said, make sure that you put your log line and or synopsis in there. Important, because you can't, that's what draws them in, right? So that also means you better have a bomb log line. And it better not be more than 2 sentences, and even 2 is a stretch. If your log line is 8 sentences, it's not a log line, it's a synopsis, baby. The other one is going to places, festivals, groups. The thing with groups is it's not even just writing accountability and support groups. It's also that, I know I'm on the board of New York Women in Film and Television and the Black TV and Film Collective. We do meet and greets all the time where we have panels, we have, downloads where showrunners and these other people will come and talk about their journey, but then we leave it open as a Q&A. So when you're showing up at these things, let's say that you're not exclusively familiar with who's doing what in your space. Well, now you've met someone. And so when you query them, and that's what it's called a query. When you query them, you can say, hey, I saw you at NIWIF's blah, 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 blah. You were so great. Find a little anecdote. Oh, when you talked about blah, 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 I laughed because, but find a way in. Find, like she said, know their work. And if you don't know their work, know who they are. You know, not like you levels, but stalk their socials. What do they like? Do they have a Yorkie that's in every photo that they take? Do you also have a Yorkie? Well, you can say Yorkie lover, you know, Yorkie mother to Yorkie mother. I think blah, blah, blah. You know, find that thing, find that in. But there are so many ways that you can kind of chisel a path for you to, for your stuff to get noticed or at least thought about. So you don't always have to have an agent. I agree with Nace. Even if you don't have an agent, if you have an attorney or a friend who's an attorney, they can work as your agent to at least send things out if someone's saying, send it to me, but not unrepresented. Your manager cannot be your agent though. Just for those people that have management and they're like, so if your manager is sending something, that's because they have a relationship. Again, network, relationships, all of these things are important. So I agree with everything Nace said. And I would just follow up to say, like, you know, find your hook with a human and connect with them on that level so that they can maybe invite you to send the script. Please don't send these people nothing you have not read over. Please make sure you have your typos in check. Please make sure you're not misappropriating words in your script. Please make sure if it's a lot of slang, cusses, etc., it is within the confines of it making sense in the script. And it's not just all kind of random N's and F's and MF's, because if you get someone who is quasi-conservative, they're not going to read past the first 5 MFs before they send it back to you or just shut the laptop. Know what you're doing, who you're sending what to. And then do your pre-work, like she said. Like, do you have a treat? If they say, I don't have time to read your 95-page script, just send me the treatment. Do you have one? Mm-hmm. If they say, you know what, we have something that's very similar to this, so I don't want to get your scripts, but do you want to send me maybe your beats? Did you do a beat sheet? If they say, you know what, tell me a little more about character, blah, 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 and they're not your main character, have you gone in and done a main and like headline supporting character breakdown? So if they ask you what would happen to the character in episode 5, maybe you know what they're talking about. Have you done the work before you want them to work for you? Have you done the work before you want them to work with you? All of this stuff is important, because if you use Nace's, you know, formula and somebody says, oh, send me blah, blah, blah. Do you have it to send? And does it look good? Please don't send them your PowerPoint looking deck. Find someone to do it. Please. No shade to PowerPoint. I have a director who's an amazing director. He loves a PowerPoint deck, and I always make him send it to me so that I can then put it in Canva or Google Sheets at the very least, so that we can, like, you know, get some traction. Make sure your stuff doesn't look, you know, uber pedestrian. Because now everybody's doing a deck. Come on, Canva is the thing now. Canva just, you know, they got a $6 billion valuation for a reason. Mm-hmm. So those are the ways that you get yourself up and out, folks.
I think this is fantastic advice. If I can add on that.
Please.
I love Canva. I make all my decks in Canva. Do not go into Canva, look up pitch deck or lookbook and use their template, because I get that all the time. People send it to me. I'm like, this is from Canva. I know, because you didn't change the colors. You didn't change the images. I see it. And they see it too. So definitely change that up. And with that, I'll also say, if you do this where like you do the research into the person and you have everything like prepped, you got a really nice looking deck, you got everything like that they might ask for ready to send immediately, and it's spell checked and it's looking good, you're already like above most people. Because I cannot tell you how many times I've received an email that says, dear sir or madam. I'm not reading that. That's not me.
Oh no, I've had people send me emails and misspell my name. My name is my name is my email address. So you weren't paying attention at all. So that tells me you do not major in the minor. And if you don't major in the minor, you're not a filmmaker. Good luck.
Yeah, it is. Truly, it is so easy to leap above the rest, because most people are not spell checking. They're emailing me, sir or madam. They're emailing me, hey, Nancy. It's pretty easy. You say hi, Nace, and I'm already going to read the rest. Like, It's like, it's really, if you're thorough, if you just really like, just do the thing, I promise you, you're going to like, if you've cast out that line properly, you're going to get some fish biting. I promise.
Mm-hmm. And even if they don't want it, be mindful you're not selling your project, you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
If you book the room, it doesn't matter if your project doesn't, because they're going to bring you back.
Yep.
I literally have a huge meeting tomorrow about potentially show running a project. Why? Because I went into that because I interviewed with them to show run something else. They didn't go with me. They went with someone else. Now, literally a year later, they've emailed me, hey, we have something we think you'd be good for. Nice. I didn't book the gig, but I booked the room.
Yeah.
So book the room.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have been given a masterclass, and this podcast was phenomenal. And I'm gonna tell you something. The last 10 minutes was fire, because the thing that I always say, if you've ever listened to me over the last 20 years, this is a business, and everything that both of these amazing women just talked about is the business of the film business. And if you are not doing business in the right way, nobody gonna do business with you. Ladies and gentlemen, people are writing checks. So if they're going to write a check, they want to know that they have at least some semblance of a chance of recouping their money. And one of the ways that you can put them at ease is your shit is on point. No one is going to deal with anyone that is sloppy. And I'm not going to be long, but let me just say this. When you go into a particular store, the window looks phenomenal. That's the thing that draws you in. And then you go in the store and everything's laid out very nicely and very, very neatly. Looks beautiful. The presentation is great. You're going to stay in this store. You're going to start walking through it. You're going to go shopping. But if you walk into a store and the window display is messed up, 9 times out of 10, you're going to keep going by. If you walk in the store and everything's disheveled, stuff's all over the place, more than likely you're going to turn around and walk out because you're saying they're not taking care of the product. So if you are not taking care of you and you're the product, if you're not taking care of that and you're not presenting the product in a good light, no one's going to want to do anything with you or with that product. So you just got to keep that in mind. So again, make sure you listen to this podcast, because again, this podcast was great, but the last 15 minutes was absolute fire. So Nace, any last words before we let you go? Because I know you're over there on Spanish time and it's kind of late. So any last words?
No worries. I'm a night owl, so this is totally fine. It has been so much fun chatting with you both. I guess I'll say check out my website, NaceDeSanders.com. I'm Nace DeSanders on TikTok. It's just Nace DeSanders on everything. I keep it easy. All right. So you just Google that name, you'll find it all. That's a tip too. Do that. Don't change up your ad. Okay. Nace DeSanders everywhere. And yeah, reach out to me if you want to do some filmmaker consulting. You deck looking whack, come to me. I got you. You need help with anything, I'm here. And if Dance of the Demon sounded interesting and you want to be a part of that too, reach out, please.
Yeah, make sure you check out her websites, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow her. And, as we have been saying throughout the podcast, listen, if we want to see more phenomenal films from Black people, we have to support. So if you have $1, $5, $10, $20, $100, a couple thousand, go visit Nace DeSanders' website. I almost slipped up there. Visit Nace DeSanders' website. And, it may be something that you'd like to contribute to. So hey, make that thing happen. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been an absolutely amazing podcast. Thank you so much for joining myself, the phenomenal Nace DeSanders, my amazing co-host Okima Moore, and myself, Floyd Marshall Jr. on A Conversation with Podcast. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you go on Apple Podcasts and give it a like and give it a good rating, because that helps us out with the algorithm. So make sure you do all of that stuff, and just make sure that you're doing yourself some justice when it comes to your business, because it's a business. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, as I always say, love it like a hobby, but treat it like a business. Have an absolutely phenomenal night.